Today we're going to talk about the top 8 most dangerous motorcycle clubs to ever sit on a Harley Davidson and take over an entire state or country with shootouts, car bombs, taking normal motorcycle clubs and turning them into support clubs or clubs that no longer exist. Let's get into it. Big shout to the Ghosts and the Ghostettes. Welcome to Demons Row TV, the holy grail of MC culture, where we cover everything motorcycle and motorcycle club involved. I'm Sos the Ghost. I'm your host for the evening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you love MC culture content. Let's break this down. Number 1, the Hells Angels. The Hells Angels didn't become the top club because they were the loudest. It was with movies and brand name recognition. They would make smaller clubs feel inferior. Either way, you become support or you become a rival. Respected clubs like the Satan Slaves in California patched over. Sonny Barger moves to Arizona. Dirty Dozen, a well-respected club out there, patches over. Popeyes in Canada, patch over. This same motto has happened in Australia, Europe, and countries all over the world. Most, if not all, major club wars are Hells Angels involved. In the 1990s, the Quebec Biker War, they went head-to-head with the Rock Machine. 8 years, more than 160 dead, hundreds of bombings, and entire cities terrified. When it was over, the Rock Machine either got buried or patched over. The Hells Angels controlled the entire province. In Europe, it was the Bandidos. The Nordic Biker War from 1994 to 1997 saw the Angels using rocket launchers, car bombs, and ambush tactics across Denmark and Sweden. When it ended, governments rewrote anti-gang laws because of the Angels' power. So this is how they took over, through organization, fear, and expansion through patchovers. They don't just have members, they have infrastructure. No matter the content, no matter the rival, they won wars, outlasted the feds, and turned chaos into structure. Number 2, the Outlaws MC. The Outlaws use a similar moveset as the Angels. Dominate, they make smaller clubs support, shut down, or patch over. The reason why they're one of the most dangerous to ever do it is decades of wars, bombings, and bloodshed that built a reputation even rival 1%ers respect. They came up in the Midwest in 1935, long before most major clubs existed. By the time the Hells Angels were forming in California, the Outlaws already ruled Chicago. They were the original 1%ers. Their motto says it all: God forgives, outlaws don't. Throughout the years, they've proven that line, word for word. In the 1970s and 80s, they went to war with the Hells Angels over control of the Midwest and Florida. In Milwaukee, the war got so bad that the ATF labeled it a domestic turf conflict. Entire clubhouses were blown up with dynamite, and the Outlaws chapter president was gunned down in front of his home. By the 1990s, they were running full operations in Canada, the UK, and Australia. Every time the Hells Angels tried to expand east, the Outlaws were there waiting. When the Angels pushed into Canada, the Quebec Biker War wasn't just Angels versus Rock Machine. It was also the Outlaws trying to block Hells Angels' power across the border. The feds have tried to break them down for decades. Operation 00 in the 2000s hit multiple chapters for gun and drug charges. Project Dead End in Canada dismantled parts of their Ontario wing. And in 2020, law enforcement across Europe raided outlaw chapters tied to M's and organized crime rings. The reason why they're feared isn't just violence, it's longevity. They've outlasted every major crackdown and built chapters across the US, Europe, and Australia, and kept their independence while everyone else joined the Angels or the Mongols empires. We've heard all the studies. Testosterone in young men is drastically decreasing every decade. One major study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found the 22-year-old in 2000 had double the testosterone of a 22-year-old in 2025. So if you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you need to hear this. Let's talk about Mars from the Wellness Company, a doctor-formulated nutraceutical designed to restore vitality without synthetic hormones or stimulants. Mars helps men naturally increase testosterone, enhance circulation, and improve strength, focus, and sexual performance with Tungcat Ali, Tribulus, horny goatweed, and zinc. This isn't about masculinity, it's about health. Low testosterone affects energy, motivation, fertility, muscle mass, mood, and future generations. If you're looking for a boost, Mars will have you feeling like you're on another planet. Get yours now. Head to twc.health/ghostin and use the code GHOSTIN to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/ghostin and use the code GHOSTIN to get 10% off. Now let's take this to the next level. Number 3, the Mongols MC. The Mongols didn't become one of the most feared motorcycle clubs because they were the biggest. They became it because they were the first ones bold enough to challenge the Hells Angels head on. Severely outnumbered and win battles most clubs wouldn't even start. They were born in East LA in 1969, made up of Vietnam veterans and Chicano riders. The Mongols weren't looking for permission. They were looking for respect. By the 1980s, they already had a reputation for violence, with Scott Jr. Erickson in retaliation to Mongols members who lost their lives in a shootout at the hands of the Hells Angels, took the life of a Hells Angels president. This would help solidify the Mongols as a club that would not back down. Police reports out of California, Nevada, and Arizona linked them to years of clashes, but it was 1998 to 2002 when everything changed. The Mongols versus Hells Angels war. The feud exploded at the Laughlin River Run in 2002. A casino floor turned into a battlefield. Knives, guns, chaos. 3 men lost their lives, including a Mongol and 2 Hells Angels. The moment proved something nobody had ever done before. The Mongols could go blow for blow with the Angels publicly and walk out standing. After that, their influence would spread even more all over the United States, then push into Mexico and Australia and other countries. And so many countries to date, it would be hard to name them all. Law enforcement calls them the most violent organized MC in America, and the feds have spent decades trying to shut them down. In 2008, Operation Black Rain hit. Over 79 Mongols got arrested. Thousands of federal agents were involved. The government even tried to seize their logo, the Mongol patch, calling it a criminal trademark. The Mongols fought that case in court for years, and they won. They have also faced major stings: Operation Black Sabbath, Operation Silver Shovel, Operation Warlord, all federal level takedowns aimed at dismantling the Mongols, but the club survived every single one. And that's what makes them dangerous. They adapt. When the feds hit their California chapters, they moved deeper into Mexico. When rivals tried to box them out, they built alliances with street and prison organizations that kept them supplied and protected. Today, the Mongols have hundreds of members across the US, Europe, and Latin America. Their name still carries weight because they're one of the few clubs that fought the Hells Angels on their own turf and carved out Southern California as theirs and expanded all over the world. Real quick, if you enjoy MC culture content, smash that like and that subscribe button and get your Ghosavelli motorcycle riding mask, Paisley gloves, Demons Row snapbacks in all colors, track races, we got it all, and you can get it on www.demonsrow.com. Let's get back into it. Number 4, the Bandidos MC. You ever wonder why the Bandidos MC sits at the top of every outlaw watch list right next to the Hells Angels? It started in Texas. Their motto says it all: we are the people our parents warned us about. From day one, their goal was to establish dominance, using the same tactics as the Outlaws and the Angels. If you're in their territory, you become red and gold support, or you become one of two things: a victim or a rival. By the 1970s, they weren't just riding, they were taking territory. Shootouts in Houston, bombings in Dallas, confrontations with law enforcement so constant that the feds started calling them Mafia on motorcycles. Then came the 1980s, and with it, their global expansion. Australia, Scandinavia, Germany, everywhere they went, wars followed. In Scandinavia, the Bandidos vs. Hells Angels conflict became one of the deadliest biker wars in history, known as the Great Nordic Biker War. Rocket launchers fired at clubhouses, car bombings in public, more than a dozen bodies dropped in under 5 years. And the craziest part, they weren't fighting over money, they were fighting over respect and territory. In the US, their reputation was sealed after the 2015 Twin Peaks massacre in Waco, Texas, a meeting of clubs that turned into a full-blown battlefield. 9 dead, over 170 arrested. Law enforcement called it the bloodiest day in biker history. Prosecutors painted it like a scene from a war movie. Bandidos and Cossacks exchanging gunfire in broad daylight. Many that were there say the police threw the first shots, and yet, after all that, the Bandidos are still standing strong. Over 2,000 members in more than 20 countries. They've survived federal RICO cases, DEA operations, and international bans. In Australia, police list them as one of the big 5 outlaw clubs, responsible for gun trafficking, extortion, and organized hits. In Europe, they're classified as a criminal syndicate. So why are they so dangerous? Because they don't just fight rivals, they fight governments. They've gone toe-to-toe with the Hells Angels, battled entire nations, police forces, and still expanded worldwide. When you wear that fat Mexican patch, you're not just repping a club, you're carrying a legacy of war, discipline, and defiance. The Bandidos MC are not just another outlaw club, they're a global power that has been tested by bullets, bombs, and time, and they're still here. Number 5, the Pagans MC. The Pagans Motorcycle Club is considered one of the most dangerous organizations in the world and have a stronghold on the East Coast. Founded in 1959 by Lou Dobkin in Maryland, the Pagans started off as a bunch of hot rod riders and evolved into a war machine. By the late 60s, they were recruiting ex-Vietnam vets, convicts, and street enforcers. The club's symbol isn't just art. By the 1970s, the Pagans declared open war on the Hells Angels. It was the battle for the East Coast. Clubhouses got torched, members disappeared, and New Jersey, Philly, and Baltimore became battlegrounds. The Angels had California, the Pagans made sure nobody took the Atlantic. The Pagans became ruthless, organized, and feared. Federal prosecutors said their entire structure operates like a paramilitary. Regional mother clubs, strict chains of command, and enforcement crews known as hit squads. In one RICO case, witnesses described pagan meetings looked more like military briefings, maps, targets, and surveillance photos. The list of charges read like a history of American crime: racketeering, trafficking, gun running, arson, kidnapping, murder for hire. In 2010, an undercover ATF agent testified that the Pagans and forces carried hatchets, pistols, and even grenades. Whole chapters were raided at dawn in New York, Delaware, and Virginia. Yet even with all that, the club kept expanding, doubling its size in less than a decade. Then in 2018, there was a pagan resurgence under Keith Conan Richter, who rebuilt the club like a general raising an army. He patched over street crews, brought back fallen chapters, and turned Pennsylvania and New Jersey into strongholds again. Law enforcement said it was the biggest pagan push since the 70s. In 2021, the feds hit them with gun charges, but that barely slowed the movement down. Why are the Pagans so dangerous? Because they don't fear the spotlight or the system. They've gone head-to-head with the Hells Angels, fought cops, and built alliances with other outlaws. They don't want fame, they want dominance. Every patch, every tattoo is a warning. The East Coast belongs to them. From the boardwalks of Jersey to the bars of Baltimore, the Pagans MC didn't just survive the outlaw wars, they won their coast. Number 6, the Vagos MC. The Vagos MC didn't rise to power by talking, they earned it through war. Founded in 1965 in San Bernardino, California, they built a reputation of pure chaos. They call themselves the Green Nation, and for good reason. From California to Arizona, Nevada to Mexico, their influence runs deep. These are not your weekend riders. The Vagos are a machine. Tight structure, strict hierarchy, and absolute silence. They operate like an army, not a club. And if you think they're just another patch on the road, think again. The Vagos have been in some of the most violent biker wars in history. The blood feud between the Vagos and the Hells Angels turned the West Coast into a battleground. Shootouts in Victorville, explosions in the desert, whole highways shut down after gunfire between both sides. Even in Mexico, allies of the Green Nation clashed with Angel supporters in brutal retaliation cycles that went on for years. One of the most infamous moments came in Reno, Nevada in 2011, the Nugget Casino Brawl. Cameras caught it all. Hells Angels and Vagos members throwing down in the middle of a packed casino. Fists, knives, and gunfire echoing through the slot machines. Jeffrey Pettigrew, the president of the San Jose Hells Angels, was shot dead in the chaos. That single night lit up the entire outlaw world and proved the Vagos weren't afraid of any patch, any place, any time. Law enforcement tried to crush them in Operation 22 Green, arresting more than 80 members across multiple states. Every kind of charge imaginable, everything they could throw, but the feds couldn't make it stick. Years later, the case fell apart and the Vagos walked. And that's how you know they're one of the most dangerous clubs. Not because they act wild, because they're organized enough to survive federal takedowns. Number 7, the Rebels MC. The Rebels MC were born in Australia and became one of the largest outlaw motorcycle clubs in the Southern Hemisphere. Thousands of members, dozens of chapters, and a track record written in blood. In 2008, a Rebels chapter president was shot dead outside his home, one of several targeted M's linked to ongoing wars with rival clubs. Police later tied the club to a string of bombings and shootings during turf conflicts with the Bandidos and Comancheros. These weren't bar fights. These were organized attacks involving machine guns, explosives, car bombs. Authorities labeled them as an organized crime threat. Despite massive police crackdowns, national bans, and leadership arrests, the rebels continue to expand, adapting faster than law enforcement can contain them. Number 8, the Sons of Silence. The Sons of Silence MC may not have the fame of some other clubs, but in pure violence and discipline, they're among the deadliest. Throughout the 80s and the 90s, the Sons of Silence were tied to M's, kidnappings, and bombings, tied to territory disputes across the Midwest. The ATF and FBI have seized machine guns, grenades, and meth labs from their properties. In 2009, federal agents raided multiple chapters, charging dozens of members in a RICO case for drug trafficking and weapons distribution across multiple states. Quiet, strategic, and armed to the teeth, the Sons of Silence MC are proof that the deadliest outlaws aren't always the loudest. So I hope you enjoy this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you love motorcycle club content. And thank you for tuning in to Demons Row TV, the holy grail of MC culture. Like, subscribe, and comment. And oh yeah, we ghosting, baby.
What?